The Giants are gearing up for their second preseason game against the Texans. Now, Daniel Jones, QB1, told our NFL insider Jonathan Jones that he will play in said preseason game. Now, it's a make-or-break year for Daniel Jones, coming off that ACL injury, but still, Jones struggled before that injury, had just 2 passing touchdowns in 6 games. Getting a look at Daniel Jones by the numbers the last 2 seasons. In 2022, you see the record 9-6-1, 15 passing touchdowns, 5 INTs, and 2023, a very different story, a 1-5 record before tearing that ACL in early November. As mentioned, Daniel Jones spoke with JJ about his comfort level this season with the Giants. Take a listen.
Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports, alongside New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. Thank you so much for joining us. I love our annual tradition here of chatting. I was told by folks that in this camp, you have seemed a little bit more laid back was the term that was used to me. Not that you're not serious, not that you're not about business, but that there's a comfort level, maybe. Is that accurate? Would you know what anyone is talking about there?
Well, yeah, I'm certainly comfortable. Year 3 in this offense, and you get used to, get used to what we're calling, how we're running things, and how it's going. But I think more than anything, just kind of focused on what I need to do to make sure, I'm in a position to play well, and this team's in a position to play well. So there's always a high sense of urgency, and we're all always trying to take a step forward and improve. But I think that needs to be, kind of thought about, methodical, and there's a process to it. I think we followed that.
The way last year went, the pressure that's always on the New York Giants, but especially on you. How much of a fire is lit under you, or do you believe that if you need extra motivation, then you shouldn't be doing this?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I always feel like I'm extremely motivated and driven, and I feel like I've always worked as hard as I possibly can. So, now to say that I'm going to work harder, I don't know. I'm always working as hard as I can. So, but yeah, I'm driven, I'm motivated, I'm all those things, and excited for this year.
Yeah, year 3 of this offense, but it's year 1 of Brian Daboll really kind of being in your ear as much as he has been. How's that been?
It's been good. It's been good. I think Dave's has been involved, since he's gotten here. He's an offensive coach, and this is his system. So we've worked together, a good bit, and they do a good job, that staff, kind of working together and, kind of putting their heads together and creating that game plan. Or, right now it's the script in practice and what we're going to be running in practice, but, ultimately the game plan and what we're running. So they do a good job working together. I've worked with, all of them, and I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm told that you guys have spent even more time together than maybe in years past. Is that accurate, and what has that been like for the relationship and him seeing the game through your eyes and vice versa?
Yeah, I think we, since, this spring, obviously I wasn't out on the field, but we were spending more time in the meeting rooms watching film and talking through it. You talk through certain situations and what he's thinking as a play caller, what I'm thinking as a quarterback, and how that changes the decision-making process, how that changes what the defense could be doing, and how we're going to kind of plan accordingly. So all those conversations are productive, and we've had certainly more of them in the last 4 or 5 months than we had prior to. So it's been helpful for sure.
Coming off the ACL and your full go, are you going to play in the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
Yep.
When did you fully trust the knee? When was sort of that getting past that threshold, or have you reached that yet?
Yeah, I think at some point this summer before training camp, I felt really good about where I was and felt like I could do everything I needed to do to play. It's been a real planned out, well thought out process here from the trainers and doctors and shrink staff, and I've just tried to follow that as best I can, and you make progress each week, and we hit our marks, and I was ready to go for training camp. But I felt good going in. I felt good this summer getting ready for it, and you don't want to get out on the practice field and do things you hadn't done. So I'd done plenty of those things and tested it.
How have you gotten to know Malik Neighbors off the field?
Malik's a great guy, and I've enjoyed hanging out with him. I think you continue to build that chemistry and on the field and off the field by spending more time getting to know each other, and he's as a rookie, you think about all the things you're getting used to, moving to a new place, a new city, and then getting ready to play on Sundays. So just try to help out where I can.
He said that you invited him to the Luke Combs concert. He said, yeah, I just had something that came up, but that he wants the invite to the next Morgan Wallen concert.
Yeah, he's a Morgan Wallen guy. I like Morgan Wallen too. So, but yeah, we'll there'll be plenty of time to spend off the field and try to get together for dinners and hang out, and I think all that stuff, extremely valuable, and we try to do as much of that as we can.
Offensive line, I know that these guys are all getting healthy, all 5 of them together. What's your outlook on this offensive line, and what you're hoping to continue to see from them in the weeks leading up to the season?
Yeah, I think they've played well so far this training camp. I'm excited about some of the guys we brought in. I think you got some older guys in the room, some guys who've played for a number of years, and I think that helps everybody in the room, helps me, helps the younger guys, helps all of us. So I'm excited about that, and I think it's about building chemistry and playing together. They've been nicked up a little bit through this training camp, so I think it's important to get everybody out there, get on the same page, and get together. But they've played well. I'm excited about where we are.
Daniel, my last question. I think there's always a sense of urgency in the NFL, and you just talked about I'm giving it my all. There's 100% that you're giving. Do you allow yourself to feel that urgency, that pressure? Does it feel any differently this year than in years past?
Not really. I think you try to zero in on what you're doing in that particular moment. Right now it's practice and making sure you're practicing, doing all the things you need to do to improve as a player. And, I know I've got to perform. I know this team has to perform. So you're certainly aware of that, but it doesn't change, my process and how I go about my work and how we go about our work as a team. But it's always a high sense of urgency, in this league, and we know we got to win, and we're ready to do that.
There you go. Daniel Jones, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Giants went 6-11 last season, and you're getting a look at the offense in 2023. That O-line, they allowed 83 sacks. That was the second most in NFL history. The offense in general, just ranking towards the bottom in the NFL in almost every single category, all the important ones. But there is a bright spot for the Giants offense, and JJ just talked about it a little bit. They now have a #1 receiver in Malik Nabers, selected number 6 overall in this year's draft. 1,569 receiving yards with LSU. Now, the Giants haven't had a receiver put up those type of numbers in the NFL since OBJ back in 2018. Malik Nabers spoke with JJ about the high expectations that he's facing for the upcoming season.